So, we Stalwart Learning, so we are a corporate training organization, and we are specialized in delivering all kinds of technological training programs, as well as behavioral topics to our clients all over India. So we do deliver training programs in webinar model, which we are doing today. Apart from that, we also do tons of open house programs. We have virtual instructor
I'm sorry, we are not
trainings.
able to see your presentation. Yeah, now it's visible. All right, thanks.
Oh, sure. So yeah, like I was telling, so we do deliver training programs in webinar model, which we are doing today. We also deliver tons of open house programs. We have instructor-led classroom training programs. We have a virtual instructor-led training programs. We So, coming to our, instructor-led training programs, we
Sorry,
have,
voice is not.
very deep expertise in AI/ML.
Sorry to say, there is some distortion or maybe a voice break or something. Maybe an connectivity issue at your end, I believe.
Acha, sure. 1 second. So I think there has been some network issues. So what I would request is, so we also have the trainer for today's session, Kalpesh, with us. So I would request Kalpesh to give a brief introduction about yourself and take this webinar forward. And probably we can have this presentation at the end of the training session.
All right, thank you so much, folks. Hope you can hear me. It's Kalpesh here.
Yes,
Yeah.
Kalpesh. Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes, able to hear.
All right. So
Yes, Kalpesh.
let me start a little bit with my introduction. My name is Kalpesh Ashar, and I am from Mumbai. I have a little over 23 years of total experience. I worked in various different companies when I was working full time, about 13 odd years, and I've been working as a freelance consultant and a trainer in the area of project management since last 10 years. I worked in TCS and Tech Mahindra in India. I worked for a telecom startup in California. I worked in UK, Northern Ireland for some time as well. I am mainly my focus area is project management. So I'm PMP certified, Prince2, and Agile certifications along with it. Right? Electronics engineer is my education background, followed by MBA from SP Jain in Mumbai. Okay. Also visiting faculty at a few business schools now. Finally, I've authored a few books in the last few years. If you search on my name on Amazon, you'll find 4 books are available. The 5th one, incidentally, is on Agile, which is due to come next month. With this, I would start off the session on Agile project management. So what I'll do is that I will start the presentation and share my screen. Just confirm to me once you're able to see my screen well. Okay, now are you able to see my screen?
Yes. Yeah.
All right, good. So in this particular session, we have a short session. So we'll cover some of the key things. In this session, I'm going to be covering these 6 things, and at the end we'll have a short Q&A as well. So in case there is something in your mind, then you can use the chat window, ask me questions. I'll try to answer as many as I can. So in these 6 modules, first we will talk about why do we really need Agile, right? And how do we get there? That's a shifting paradigm. Then some overview I'll give you about in Agile, what do we have and what Agile teams look like, some benefits of Agile. And then I'll give you some information about certification. If you want to get certified in Agile, then what are the various certifications that are available. Okay. So first, let's go to need for Agile. The traditional way, the way we manage projects is more stage-wise. So what happens is we first get the requirements, right? Once the requirements are finalized, then we go to the next stage, generally the design stage. Once that gets over, we go to the next development stage, then comes the testing stage, and towards the end, we have some kind of user acceptance where user looks at what we have done and signs off saying, yeah, what we have done is correct. Now, this approach works fine, fantastic, no problem. For years, we have been using it. But then there is one big problem that we have started seeing lately is we don't get regular feedback from the user on how we are doing. We show the user what we have done very much towards the end of the project. So if we're talking about a 6 months duration of a project, then it could be maybe 4th or 5th month when we start showing the user something and when they do some testing. And then they might come back and say, you know what, I don't like this. That's a big problem with that approach. One other problem that we have also found out with this approach is handling changes. Whenever the changes come, then a lot of rework goes in because we have done planning for the entire project. All the requirements have been planned at once, right? And they have to maybe even designed. And now while we are developing it, some request comes for a change. So then we have to go through a full change management process, and then there's a lot of rework involved. It's very cumbersome. So mainly because of these two problems, it was thought that we should do something differently. And that's where Agile was born. Okay. So just I'm giving you a little bit background of where it comes from. Okay. So we talk about a little bit more about this need for Agile. So we'll start off with this interesting example of burning platform. This was given by Nokia's CEO to his employees in the year 2010, many years back. That was the time when Nokia was just falling off the peak. So Nokia was the market leader around that time, if you remember. It was falling off. And the CEO of Nokia realized that problem, and then he gave a speech to his employees, and he took example of the burning platform. What he said is that there was this guy, Andy Mojan. He was on one of the oil rigs. You see that oil rig burning? That oil rig somewhere in the North Sea. He was, I think, 1988 year or something. He was on an oil rig and it caught fire. Now, with Andy, he had two choices. Either to get burnt, stay on there and get burnt, or to jump. Now, if he jumped, he knew that the water was very cold around him, North Sea, very cold water. He could not survive in that water for a very long time. If nobody comes to rescue him, he's gone anyway. So what choice did he have? He jumped. And luckily, the people came on time and he was rescued. But he was certain that if he would have stayed on that platform, he would have got burned. He would have definitely died. So this example he gave to his employees, telling them that we have stuck to our platform. Their platform was that Nokia Symbian platform for a very long time. They never innovated from there. On the other hand, Android and iPhone, the iOS, all of those came. And they were much newer generation. They could do a lot of things which Symbian just could not do. So they did not change their platform. He was trying to compare the mobile platform with this burning platform, and he said that is the problem that we have, and it's probably too late now. And I think in a year or two, Nokia was practically gone from the market. Same thing we can think of from a project perspective, project management perspective. We have stuck to our earlier way of doing it for a very long time. Although we know that there are problems, but then we have stuck to it still. Maybe because we did not know what to do, how to do it differently, what to do differently. But now Agile has come, so maybe Agile can solve problems. So let's see what are the burning platforms that we commonly have on projects. You might have come across all of these, or at least some of these. Deliveries are late. It's the biggest problem. We are unable to complete project on time. Cost overruns happen. We have spent more than what was anticipated. Quality of work is not up to the mark. We delivered something which the customer does not like. That's low quality work. Employee burnout. Many a times people put extra hours, 60 hours, 70 hours a week, and they do it for a very long time. They burn out. Burnout means their productivity falls significantly. Dissatisfaction among employees. So these are all the various burning platforms. And there's one more. Finally, because of all of these, customer dissatisfaction. Customer is not satisfied either because of late delivery or because of cost overrun or because of low quality work or all of them. And if there's an employee burnout, that could even be an impact on the communication with the customer. All of these finally lead to customer dissatisfaction, and these are the various problems which I am calling here as burning platforms on a lot of the projects being done. And we'll see how these problems can be solved with Agile. Okay. Yeah. So far, we have decided to stay on the burning platform, not to jump off. Why do we don't jump? What stops us from jumping? Resistance to change or inertia. This is the biggest contributor. We humans are people of habit. We are creatures of habit, which means that once we do something, we continue doing the same thing. We are not very keen to make changes. And it's not just people, even organizations don't want to change. Organization culture remains same for like ages, even though the environment changes, and because of which the organization goes out of business. It cannot survive in a change environment. Afraid of failure. What you're doing right now, you're not succeeding maybe, but well, you are close to success. But you are worried that if I change my approach, if I do something new, which I've never tried before, I could fail. And how will it look? What will my boss say? Or what will my company say? Lack of organizational commitment. Many a times, no, as an individual, you cannot make changes, big changes. It has to come from the senior management. Organization has to commit to changes. And Agile is one such example. One or two people in an organization cannot bring about an Agile change in the organization. Senior management has to be convinced that yes, if we change, it will be for better. Agile will work for us. And that culture then percolates to the lower set of employees. And many a times there is no sense of urgency. Like example of Nokia. Companies do not always realize that they are on the brink of disaster. They need to change the way they are doing things. And if they are late, they are gone, wiped out. Like Nokia was literally wiped out overnight. You don't realize the urgency. These are the reasons why people don't take the plunge or companies don't take the plunge. There's this nice book written by Stephen Covey. He's written, in fact, two nice books. One nice book is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which is a very popular book, after which came the 8th Habit book. So this book, he has made this very nice comment. He says, the range of what we think and do is limited by what we fail to notice. And because we fail to notice that we fail to notice, there is little we can do to change until we notice how failing to notice shapes our thoughts and deeds. So it's very complicated 3 statements to understand, but the crux of the statements is that we never notice that we are failing. So we are failing to notice that we are failing. And because we are not noticing, we never think of making a change. The day we notice that we are failing, that's the first step towards making a change. Then maybe we'll see, what differently we can do. And then Agile could enter. Okay. So all of these basically I was showing you about why do we need to kind of change. Now I will show you how to make that change to some extent. Shifting paradigm. Paradigm means the way you look at something is called a paradigm. This term was also coined in Stephen Covey's book. And that book is this 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Okay. So in this book, what he says is that you're trying to drive in Chicago with a map of Detroit, 2 different cities. It's not going to work. So effectively what he's saying is that whatever you are doing, the approach that you're using or the map that you're using to do it, is that the correct one? If it's correct one, fantastic. But if it is not the correct one, then you are not going to succeed because it is just not going to work. It is not compatible. So then we have to change our point of view. We have to look at it from a different perspective. We have to change the way we are doing it, change the process that we are using. That's the idea of a paradigm as a mental model. So how do we look at things differently? We can base that on the Stacy matrix. The Stacy matrix has 2 things in here. On the x-axis, you see here is certainty. How clear or certain are we about the technology or whatever we are doing? And on the y-axis, you see how certain we are on the requirements or the scope of the project. You can be very clear, or we are like very unclear. And then you see, when we are very clear on technology as well as the requirements, there is no uncertainty. We are very clear what we have to do, how we have to do. That's called a simple project. On the next slide, I will show you what to do for a simple project. But then if there is some kind of disagreement on what to do and how to do, which means we are not absolutely clear, there are some gaps in there, then we would call that a complicated project. I'll show you in the second slide from here what to do for a complicated project.
Sorry to
And then
interrupt.
if things, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. We are not able to see your presentation.
Yes. Is there a problem with everybody?
Yes.
No, I can see that.
No, we are able to see.
No,
Yes,
no,
you can
no, we
see.
can see.
You're not visible, not
No, we
visible.
can see.
Your window is changed.
I can see
Window
that.
is changed.
I can see.
Okay, let me do this. Looks like some people are seeing, some people are not. Let me just stop sharing and reshare. Hold on. Maybe that will fix the problem. One second. Okay, so I've just stopped the sharing. And I will share again. And see if you're able to see it now.
Yes.
Yes. Visible to everybody?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
So technology
also,
can
in case
play
participants are trying to spotlight Kalpesh's window, it may not appear. So please don't spotlight. Do not use the spotlight feature.
Okay. All right. So I was at the complex part. No? So what I was saying is, when there is a lot of uncertainty in technology and or the requirements, then we call it a complex project. So we'll see how complex project can be handled. And finally, if there's a lot of uncertainty in both areas, house of pain, anarchy, stay away from this project. Don't even do this. It's just far too heavy to do it successfully. You should try to avoid doing that work completely. That's anarchy, house of pain. You're not going to get any benefit out of it. So we are defining three kinds of projects here: simple, complicated, and complex. And for each of them, there's a different way of working. Like earlier, Stephen Covey, we saw, he said that depending upon what you are doing, your paradigm or the way you look at it should be different. Similarly, whether you are looking at a simple project or a complicated one or a complex one, the way you look at it should be different. So first we'll start with a simple project. Simple project, just do it. Nike. It is so simple, like tying a shoelace. Just do it. No, just tie the shoelace. How difficult can that be? Okay. No complication here. Everything is very clear. The scope is clear. You know how to do it as well. Then we come to the second one, complicated project. Complicated project, you first think how you'll do it. You make a plan and then you do it. So in the simple one, you just had the third part, the do part. In complicated, you have three steps. Think how you will do, plan properly, maybe make a formal plan, then do it. This is how we have been doing project management traditionally. We have been looking at the requirements and then planning how we will do the requirements, when we will do it, what is the schedule, who will do what, all of that. That's a plan part of it, and then we do it. So this used to be working for us for ages. But then came the third set of project called complex project. Complex projects cannot be done this way. They have to be done this way. Because there is a lot of uncertainty involved. You're not sure about a lot of things. So then what would you do? Start reading from the left side. Okay. There's a plan, do, check and act. You see that circle, the wheel, plan, do, check and act. So what we will do is that, let us assume there are 100 requirements customer has given us. We'll take the first 10. We plan them, we'll do them. We check with the customer if what we have done is correct. And if not, we will act, which means we will fine tune our process in some way. We'll do continuous improvement on that point. Then we'll do another 10 requirements. Again, plan, do, check and act. Again, take feedback, improve. Then plan, do, check and act. So what we are doing is that we are delivering the entire project in parts rather than all at once. This is what happens in Agile. It's called a PDCA cycle. PDCA, many of you might have probably heard as well. It's called a Deming cycle also. Plan, do, check and act. Don't take the whole thing at once. Take small chunks. Take feedback from the customer on how you are doing so that you can make improvements. And why this is required for a complex project? Because there are things which are unknown, many things which are unknown. So until you show the customer what you have done and get feedback, you cannot be sure what you've done is right. Okay, so that's the complex project. This is where Agile fits. If you had simple project, no need to plan also. If you had a if you have a complicated project, the earlier traditional model works fine, but there has to be certainty. Huh? But then if a lot of uncertainty, we have a complex project, that's when Agile is needed. Agile is said to be an empirical process. Empirical means you learn from what you are doing. Constant learning is empirical. You learn from what you have done. Okay. On the left side, you see predictive is written. On the right side, adaptive is written. So adaptive is empirical. You learn and you adapt. Adapt means you change as per the situation. Predictive means the traditional way of doing projects, where you can predict things, you can make the entire plan end to end because things are very clear. You don't need to be adaptive. You can predict things. But as businesses have grown over the last few years, there's less things which are predictive in business. We have to be more adaptive in business.
Kalpesh, sorry to disturb. Can you make your screen size a little bigger? Text is not readable. Something like a slideshow.
I am on slideshow only.
But your screen size is very small.
I don't know. Is there a setting in Microsoft in MS Teams? Because what I'm doing, showing you is a slideshow.
Okay, maybe problem.
Select a focus mode in Teams, so you'll see it in full screen.
Okay.
Do I have to do that?
No.
The viewer will have to do it.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
What you need to do is hold a control and use your maybe mouse track button, and maybe by scrolling it, you can zoom in and zoom out. You can use that feature because Teams has borders which will basically, by default, it will reduce the size of a shade screen.
And also the user can use the focus mode.
Focus mode will increase the size to little better size, or you can also use zoom in, zoom out mode as good as what you do in your normal MS applications. So just by scrolling down or up, you will be able to zoom in and zoom out. You need to hold the control button as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. You also see at the bottom of the screen here, there are two kinds of the processes shown. One is showing waterfall, other is showing agile. So waterfall is a term used in IT. Even though you're not from IT, doesn't matter. Waterfall simply means you're doing stage-wise, one after the other. Requirement, designing, implementation, verification, maintenance, right? One after the other. Whereas in Agile, what we will do is that we will run small phases or small projects where we would pick up a few things, deliver those things, learn, pick up few more, deliver, learn, pick up few more, deliver, learn, the PDCA cycle. Okay. So remember, empirical process is learning from doing. Okay. Whereas predictive, you just right in the beginning only, you plan the entire project at once.
Kalpesh, I have a question over here.
Okay.
Yes. So as per what is explained on the slide, Agile kind of takes care of adapting to changes by learning at every stage. So here in the Agile concept, are we only assuming technical things from the technical part of the project, or it can also help us adapt to say the human behavior of the customer? So where I'm coming from is there are certain projects wherein the clients or the customers, it is very people driven. It kind of depends upon the sudden mood swings, if I can literally put it, of the decision maker, right? So does agile also kind of help in case there is too much of human intervention from the client side and micromanagement from the client side, and they want changes every now and then? Does it also take care of that, or this it's only purely technical learnings?
Okay, so short answer is yes, it does. A longer answer is when I use the term adaptive, it's about adaptive to any kind of changes on the project, not just technological changes, even changes from the customer side. So you said human behavior changes, customer changes his or her mind, and they want
Right.
it differently now. Yeah, so that is also taken care of because this is about any kind of changes on the project.
Okay, okay. So, just one more follow-up question. So, if there are changes that it kind of helps us adapt. So, does the agile concept also help with? Nevertheless, the changes, the timelines are still met. Maybe a little bit of, say, plus minus, but the timelines are as close to the original scheduled.
So in Agile, what happens is that we go with a timeline, but not with the scope. So let me first tell you about the with the original, the predictive model or the earlier model we used to use. In the earlier model, the customer would come with 100 requirements, ask us to give them amount of time it will take to finish it. So we tell them, let's say 6 months it takes. When it comes to Agile, the customer comes with a timeline in mind, saying, I have 6 months. You start
Right.
doing. We do not deliver, we do not commit to scope. We say, okay, we will see how much we can do in 6 months. You keep bringing your new scope.
Okay. All right.
It works
Got that.
exactly on top. It turns on its head.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Thanks.
Sure. Okay. Now that I've shown you, what Agile is, where we might need it, and how to make a change. Now let's see within Agile what are the various methodologies that go in. The term Agile actually is more of an umbrella because there are many different methodologies within it. There are about 6 or 7 or maybe even 8, you can say. The number is not fixed is because there are many of them which are very old, which are not even known these days. But the ones which are most commonly used are Scrum, Kanban, and XP. You see all the three in the diagram there. Scrum is the most popular Agile methodology. Most of the projects, when they say they are doing Agile, mostly Scrum practices are being used there. Kanban is used sometimes, and XP again, some of the practices are used. XP stands for extreme programming. Now from the name, you might realize that it was originated for software industry. However, there are a lot of practices defined in XP that are not software specific. Only I would say 2 or 3 are software specific. There are 13 in all. Okay. So they are also applicable to non-software projects, whereas Scrum and Kanban have nothing to do with software projects. They can be applied across. I will briefly take you through Scrum and Kanban and XP, just a quick overview of these three because they are the most commonly used ones. But before that, this is a statistic I have picked up across the world, which Agile methodology is most used. Look at Scrum, 58% use Scrum. And then the next big one, 10% is Scrum and XP hybrid. So you'll see a lot of projects. In fact, most of the projects will do a mix and match. They will not use only Scrum. They will take Scrum and then put some XP practices in it, maybe put some Kanban practices, mix them up and then use it. It's actually a very good way of doing it because every project is unique, and as a team of the project, you should be able to decide which practices should be most applicable here. So you see many places here you will see some kind of a hybrid or some kind of a mix and match of the various different methodologies being used. This is showing how we think in Agile, so the Agile mindset. So start reading from the left side. Okay, don't worry about reading the text here. Just understanding this diagram is good enough. When we think Agile, we have to first think about the 4 values. Agile defines 4 values in it. Okay, these are basically 4 statements. Everything in Agile revolves around those 4 statements. Those 4 values or 4 statements are further elaborated in 12 principles. So there are 12 more longer statements, 12 principles. And based on all of these, we have a bunch of different practices. You see those circles, those balls, those are the various practices defined in Agile. They are defined in the different Agile methodologies. Scrum defines a few practices, XP defines a few, Kanban defines a few. So all of the methodologies will define certain practices within the methodology. And the idea is that this is like a menu. And you as a project team select from this menu. And if you select most practices from Scrum, then you're using more of Scrum. If you're taking more practices from Kanban, then you're using more of Kanban. But you typically would do a mix and match. It is in fact very less likely that you will be implementing only Scrum methodology or only Kanban. You'll find hundreds of practices are defined in each of these methodologies, of which Scrum practices are the most popularly used ones. Right? Here I am showing you Scrum, how it works end to end. So in Scrum, you have a person called product owner. If you read from the left side, a product owner basically is a single point of contact from the customer. That person will make a requirement document, which we call a product backlog. Then there's a team. The team picks up work from product backlog, makes their own backlog called sprint backlog. And the meeting in which they do that is called sprint planning meeting. Then they do a sprint. Sprint in English means a short run. Usain Bolt is called a sprinter. Why? Because Usain Bolt runs 100-meter race, does not run longer race. So a short run is a sprint. And why it is called sprint? Because in Scrum, we do very short duration iterations. Like typically we pick up requirements only for the next 1 or 2 weeks, maximum up to 4 weeks. We do those and we deliver, and then we do another couple of weeks. So we'll go like couple of weeks every time. We don't go longer. So it's very short. So it is called sprint. Sprint can be from 1 to 4 weeks. Every day there's a daily Scrum meeting that happens just to kind of share notes on how things are going. You see there's a person by the name Scrum Master mentioned there. Scrum Master is somebody who knows the Scrum process very well, and he facilitates the team and the product owner on how things are to be done and what to do, what not to do. So that person is a facilitator. He also helps in removing impediments of the team. Any roadblock they have, he'll help remove that. Once we have the sprint done, let's say sprint is 2 weeks. That's the most common size of the sprint. Then we have all the finished work. We will do a review of that, which means we will call the stakeholders. We'll call all the users and customer and sponsor and show them, see, this is what we have completed. Give you a demo. Once the demo is done and they have signed off, yeah, what you have done is fine. Then we do a retrospective at the end. Retrospective is learning. Remember, we saw that continuous learning was there. So we will talk about what we learned from this sprint, what things went well, what did not go well. And then we'll do the next sprint, apply the learnings in the next sprint. This will continue in the next sprint. So this will keep going on this particular cycle until we are done with everything on the project. So the Scrum basically would revolve around the sprints. Sprint is a short period of time. It revolves around Kanban board. What you are seeing here is called a Kanban board. You see those sticky notes? Those are the tasks in the project. So it's very easy to understand this. Depending upon at which stage each of the task is it still pending, or are we analyzing it or developing it or testing it or ready for deploying it? Accordingly, these sticky notes will be stuck in the different places. This helps in very clearly showing to the stakeholders at what stage what work is, status of work, very easily understood. So there are other things. Obviously, there are many practices in Kanban, but all of them would revolve around this Kanban board. It's a visual way of showing work in Kanban. XP, extreme programming. So extreme programming there are a lot of software development practices which were defined in extreme programming. Look at the right diagram. So there you see there are some things which are very specific to software, like coding standard software related, refactoring software related, pair programming software related. Okay, but there are some others which can be applied to any kind of project. Okay, the idea here is that we want to work as a team. You see a lot of team work there, and then in planning, a lot of games are played. Games are there for prioritizing the work. Games are there to estimating the work. It just makes things more interesting for the team to do. While you're working, you're also kind of playing games, so interesting games. So it defines a lot of interesting games which are used on a lot of projects, agile projects. Okay, so this is an overview of XP. We don't want to go into detail of each of these, but just sensitizing you about what XP methodology is. Then agile teams look very different than traditional teams. Huh? So look at traditional team. On the left side, you have a project manager or a team lead, and then you have team members. No? In agile, you don't have a project manager. Interestingly, there is no project manager role because the project manager's responsibilities and decision-making authority is given to the team overall. Team will decide as a whole, as a group, what we will do, how we will do, when we will do, who will do what, all of that. That's called self-organizing team. Self-organizing, self-directing. You see there is one person, green color guy, called servant leader or facilitator. This person assists the team in doing things. This person would be a scrum master in Scrum. This person does not take decisions. He's a facilitator, assists, helps the team. This is a big shift from the traditional way of looking at things. Traditionally, we have a hierarchy and decisions are taken on a higher level. Here, the decisions are taken at a lower level.
Kalpesh, I have a question here.
Yep.
Yeah, so here in agile teams, if there is a conflict that may arise, so the final decision does it go by majority since it's a self-organizing team versus a project, a typical traditional team with a project manager. If there is a conflict that arises, then the project manager is basically the mediator, and then the final decision mostly lies with him. So how will it work in agile teams?
So here, if a conflict arises, we try to resolve the conflict. We means the team tries to resolve the conflict, like in traditionally project manager used to resolve. If still we do not have a resolution, then as you rightly said, we will go by majority.
Okay, all right, noted. Thanks.
One other characteristic is cross-functional teams we have got. Cross-functional teams means we will have people from various different functions or departments in one single agile team. Why? Because this is a team that should have all the skills to perform the work. For example, if we require software developers, or we require designers, or we require testers, or we require architects or somebody else, all of them should be part of the same team. So we'll pick up people from different functions and we'll make one single agile team. It's cross-functional. That's another characteristic of an agile team. Third characteristic is generalizing specialists. Here you see there are 4 green guys shown. Specialist is the first one. Specialist means that this person knows a lot about one skill, but other skills is pretty weak. Next is generalizing specialist. This guy is specialist in one or maybe couple of skills, but knows to some extent, good extent, some of the other skills also. Generalist is somebody who knows little bit about everything. Super skilled is like high skilled in almost everything. In Agile, we prefer the second guy, generalizing specialists, because we want people to specialize in one or more areas, but then we also want them to know some other areas in case they go to chip in. We don't want bottlenecks happening. So we prefer to have generalizing specialists in Agile. In the traditional way of working, we would mostly go with specialists. So there will be a front-end developer, a back-end developer, database administrator, business analyst. Okay, but no such things in Agile. People should be able to do multiple things. Some benefits I've mentioned here of Agile. Better product quality comes with Agile. customer satisfaction is higher because we keep getting feedback from them constantly. So there's a very good chance we are developing what they want. Project control is better here because there is more transparency here. A lot of things are transparent to all the stakeholders. Hiding is not there, because when it comes to the traditional way, project manager would send reports, and many a times, these reports hide a lot of things. When it comes to Agile, we try to do complete transparency. If something could not be completed, the team will not hide it. We'll say it could not be completed without any fear. It's promoted in Agile. Reduce risks because you are showing the customer more often, you're taking feedback from them, so risk of going wrong is much lesser. Greater return on investment, obviously, because if you're delivering things which are satisfying the customer more, they're getting more ROI. ROI is return on investment. Whatever money they're investing, they're getting better return, good returns. Finally, some certifications I have mentioned here. I mentioned like a couple of certifications of Agile, which are the most popular ones, but there are many more certifications. The most popular one would be PMI ACP. This stands for Agile Certified Practitioner. It is given by a Project Management Institute. These are the same people who give PMP certification. PMP, you might have heard, it's Project Management Professional Certification. And they also give this one. This covers many of the Agile methodologies. So it is, I think, the only certification I have come across which covers multitude of methodologies within Agile. Another popular certification is CSM, Certified Scrum Master. This is specifically for Scrum, given by Scrum Alliance. Okay, and if you are working on a Scrum project, this could be a certification you can go for. But then this does not give you any knowledge about Kanban or XP or anything else. So if you want to be knowing more of Agile, then that's the first one. If you want to know Scrum, maybe this one will also suffice. So CSM is like a subset of PMI ACP. And there are more certifications. Most of the certifications would be something related to Scrum or Kanban specifically. As I was telling you, I have not come across any other certification on Agile. Agile only that PMI ACP. Right, we come towards the end of this, and I had said that at the end we'll take some questions. So what we'll do is that I will just stop the sharing now, so you can use the chat window for giving me questions, because if you speak, there are a lot of people and we will not be able to hear anybody. So if you want to ask me some questions, use the chat window. I'll try to answer your questions. Right. Okay. So let me answer one by one. I got a question from Rahul. He's asking what is SAFe Agile. Right. Rahul, SAFe stands for Scaled Agile Framework. So when we want to scale up Agile, not just for the project, but to the organization level, there is a framework which is defined. So that is next level after Agile, level 2 of Agile. Once you have to know Agile, then you can go to SAFe Agile, second floor. Okay, then Rama has a question: how Agile tackles late defect entry by SQA? Okay, so to answer the question, Rama, actually SQA in traditional projects used to get involved with, towards the last stage, no? And they would give us all defects and then we would work on those defects. But when it comes to Agile, SQA happens at the end of every sprint. So we'll test every sprint. So there is very less chance that we'll get too many late defects, because whatever defects were to come, we have got early at the end of the sprint only. So unlikely will be that bad like in predictive in the earlier model. Jerry has a question: can you give examples of generalizing specialists in a non-IT scenario? Okay, so non-IT scenario, Jerry, I think we have marketing, we have sales function, we have finance function, we have design and development function, R&D function, right? So if somebody is an expert in, say, marketing, but also has good handle on some of the other things like finance and R&D, that would be a generalizing specialist. Sanjay is asking a question. Was Kanban mentioned as a methodology of Agile? Yes, Sanjay. Kanban is a methodology of Agile. In fact, earlier, in the early days of Agile, Kanban was not accepted as a methodology. But then later on, they did add Kanban as an Agile methodology. Then there is a question. One second, let me see. Okay. So Wahid has a question. Peer programming concept can be taken up in Kanban or sprint mode of execution. Race Wahid. So peer programming, what you're talking about, I think pair programming is what you're referring to. That's an XP practice. But although it's an XP practice, it can be used on any Agile project, even if you're doing Kanban or sprint. If you think that pair programming is useful, go ahead and do it. Even on a Kanban project or sprint project, it will work. That's a mixing of the practices that I was talking about. You generally mix practices across the Agile methodologies. You don't just use from one methodology. Okay, then Rajesh has a question. What is the difference between Agile and CI/CD? Rajesh, CI/CD is one of the practices within Agile. Typically, the practice is from XP. Okay, continuous integration, continuous deployment is CI/CD, and this was defined in XP as a practice. So it is within Agile, CI/CD. Okay, then Bhaskar has a question. Would you be talking about tribe or squad? No, Bhaskar, we will not be talking about any of the Agile tools here. We don't have that much time. Venkat has a question. What kind of projects Agile fits? Okay, so Venkat, Agile would fit in what we saw as complex project. A complex project typically would mean a project which has a lot of uncertainty in some way, either scope uncertainty or technology under uncertainty. Lot of things are not clear. That's where it would fit best. And then Sushil has a question. What are 3 most important qualities for a Scrum Master? Okay, let me think. So Scrum Master, the first quality would be somebody who can solve problems very easily, problem solver, because a Scrum Master has to remove roadblocks. Okay, so problem solving quality very important. Second is listening, because Scrum Master does not take part in decision making but facilitates decision making. You should be able to listen very well, good listener. And I guess the third one, I would say, would understand the Scrum methodology well, because Scrum Master is the person who helps everybody else understand how Scrum project works, because everybody might not be an expert in Scrum. Scrum Master is supposed to be driving everybody in that.
Sorry, can you please repeat this third point?
The understanding of Scrum methodology should be pretty good, because this is the person, Scrum Master, who helps the entire team understand the entire Scrum concept. Okay.
So I believe it should be the self-driven and coach the teams effectively.
Yeah, should be a good coach as well. Since you mentioned 3, I just mentioned 3, but yeah, should be a good coach. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Okay, Narendra has a question next. What is the max or min team size, project cost, and which sector projects where Agile methodology are used in real life projects? Can you share something? Right. So the Agile team size. Now, if I say Scrum suggests the team size should be anywhere from 5 to 9 people. But if you want to have, if you have a big project, there is something called Scrum of Scrum, where you can have multiple teams working together. So it is possible to scale that up. Okay. Kanban, no lower upper team size, nor in XP. So you can have any size team really. Sector, Agile can be applied to any sector where you are expecting changes to come. The prerequisite is changes can come, which means things are not clear. Then you can apply it. It is not specific to any particular sector. However, you'll find mostly Agile is being practiced in IT sector today in India, is because it's a comparatively newer concept, come from the West, and because we have Western customers in IT, they have pushed the concept on us. So we are adopting that concept now in IT. In non-IT, you will see some places they have started using Agile, but then there is not such a push. That burning platform has not come yet, and hence you will see less of it. Does not mean it is not applicable. Next question I have is from Dominic. What happens to traditional project manager if organization moves to Agile? Right, very good question. When we move towards Agile, the project manager goes away. Most likely that person will become a Scrum Master. Scrum Master is the facilitator. The role changes. The way things are done by that person change. But project manager does not lose his or her job. Okay. Next question from Anusha. How is regression testing taken care of in Agile Scrum? Only through automation? Okay, so in Agile Scrum, we suggest to do more and more automation wherever possible. And automated regression test cases will be run at the end of every sprint. Although it is not mandatory to automate, it is highly recommended to automate. Srikanth is asking, in retrospective meeting of Scrum, part of the sprint planning within the sprint cycle window, and is it followed by every sprint? Okay, so Srikanth, retrospective is not part of sprint planning. Retrospective is part of ending of the sprint. At the end it happens, whereas sprint planning happens in the beginning. Okay, and once your retrospective for the sprint is over, then we start the planning for the next sprint. So retrospective is the last thing in a sprint. Planning is the first thing in the sprint. Sanjay is saying, isn't Kanban a methodology of TPS, Toyota Production System, than Agile? Yes, Sanjay. So Kanban originated from lean manufacturing. Lean was defined by Toyota through the Toyota Production System. Okay, so lean was a concept in manufacturing. That concept was implemented using Kanban, and initially Kanban was not accepted as a methodology of Agile. It was only thought of as a manufacturing thing. But then, as the latest thinking goes, Kanban has been accepted as an Agile methodology. It started off with TPS, but okay. Then Shreyas has a question. Generally, Agile supports lesser documentation work, which is contrary to conventional MNC practices. What's the experience of management acceptability towards Agile in manufacturing sector? Right. So Agile does not necessarily support less documentation. It supports only documentation which adds value to the customer. So if there's a document which we make internally, does not go even to the customer, does not add any value to the customer, then we would either drop the documentation or we will do it bare minimum. For example, if you make a design document, let's say it does not go to the customer, it's only for our team. Then we would still make it because we need to understand that developers need to understand design, but then we'll make it minimum, very skeletal. We'll not try to put too much effort in it because it does not add value to the customer. But if it's required by the team, the document will be done. Okay, and then Darshan has a question. Does Agile team consist of freshers along with experienced professionals? Yes, Agile team can contain a mix of all people. Kailash is asking, will project manager role no more in coming future? No, project manager role does stay there, just the name has changed and the responsibilities have changed more into a facilitator rather than a decision maker. Rahul is saying popular tools used in Agile. Rahul, the most popular tool is Jira, Jira. That's the most popular tool used. Ashwini has a question. Project estimation and cost may vary. Planned and actual example as per earlier scope work was 500 man days, but due to Agile it may extend and scope may change. And how to manage project cost and timelines? As I was saying earlier, Ashwini, the team does not commit to any scope on an Agile project. We just start with a timeline given by the customer, and the customer keeps adding requirements and we keep doing at our pace that we can do. We do not commit that we are going to do so much work. We will say we will do our best, just trust us. So even if there's a change in scope, we will do whatever is highest priority first, and if the 6 months time we have got gets completed and some more scope remaining, the two options, either the customer says I am done with it, I don't want you to do any further, or the customer might extend the timeline by another month or so and say okay, do some more things. Next question is Venkat. What are the popular reporting tools used in Agile? Venkat, Jira is a tool. Yeah. Okay, Narendra is saying thanks. All right. Sushil is asking a question. How to handle situation in Agile project is in delivery of last sprint due to market demand. Business wanted to introduce a new product in this existing scope with restriction of no extra budget and timeline is fixed. Okay, so what you're saying, the last sprint is being planned, and then there is no further money and time to do some extra work, then the answer is we will not do it. There's no such thing as a fixed budget or a fixed timeline when it comes to Agile. If there is extra scope, you have to give us the extra time and money. Okay, you cannot add anything new without giving the extra time and money needed. Okay, then just a second, I just went a little bit off. Okay, Devi Prasad saying, could you please explain a bit regarding difference between Scrum Master and Agile Project Manager? There is no Agile Project Manager, there is only Scrum Master. Project Manager role is not even defined. Then Neelam is asking who will be responsible for quality of the product in Agile. Responsibility is jointly shared by the team. If there are 10 people in the team, they can be 10, sorry, if Agile team, Scrum team is maximum 9. So all of them together are responsible for quality. Shizling has saying, does Scrum Master require any technical experience? The answer is no. If you have technical experience, it could be helpful, but not mandatory. Anushri is saying, is recommended to have one member from the client's team as to be part of the Agile team whenever relevant, since majority of changes come from client's team. No, there will be nobody from client's team in our team. When I say development team, it's going to be our people only. From the client side, we'll have just one person called the product owner, the person who is a single point of contact, who will give us the requirements and give us sign-offs. Okay. Why the question? Continuous integration example, once in 2 hours, having CI in testing environment in Agile concept, advantage of CI in software testing, prefer to have CI in software testing. So CI is continuous integration. That's a concept already defined in XP. And yeah, so you can use it in an Agile project. That's all I can say. Then the question, what are the important principles to be followed in Agile? Yeah, so these principles we could not go into. That's more detailing we'll have to go into. There are 12 principles that are in there. We'll have to discuss the principles, but all the principles mainly are revolving around trying to do what is most valuable to the customer. And then can product owner and Scrum Master be one is the question. Answer is absolute no. Scrum Master and product owner should never be the same person, two different people, compulsory. Okay, let me see. Okay, yeah, I think I've covered all the questions. Okay, doesn't look like anybody's typing any further questions, so that should be it. Okay, there is somebody asking one question. Can you suggest a book on Lean and Agile? Lean, I really don't know. For Agile, you can read my book. So maybe wait until next month if you can. Go to Amazon and search on my name, and you should find a book on Agile that describes Scrum, Kanban, XP, all of them to an extent based on the practices which we use most often. Okay. All right. So over to Stalwart. Over to Abhay. Abhay, you there?
Thank you, Kalpesh, so much for your, for this beautiful webinar. So, participants, if you have any other questions, you can probably, ask him now, or, we can wind up this today's session.
Yeah, thank you, Kalpesh, for the very good session. Thanks.
Thank you, Kalpesh. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Kalpesh.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.